My next life as a villainess, all routes lead to... I'm sorry, wrong one. I'm the villainess, so I'm taming the final boss. That's the one I'm talking about. It's pretty much the first show to air in the fall 2022 anime season, and unfortunately, it took me quite a while to get around to watching that show and give me my first impressions. But that's actually a good thing, because it's a series that, honestly, in my opinion, didn't really kick up until about the third episode. So I'm kind of glad that I waited to give my impressions on the series. But this is my thoughts on the first 3 episodes of I'm the Villainess, so I'm taming the final boss, so let's jump right into it. In our story, we open up following Eileen, who is the daughter of a duke, the youngest daughter. And at the opening, we find out that Eileen has been broken up from her engagement with the prince of this kingdom. Seems like she's a really nasty person and nobody really likes her, and so he's found somebody else, Lilia. Well, as she's really upset about this breaking up of her engagement, she recalls a dream that she had and realizes that she's actually the villainess in the setting of an Otome game. These brief little glimpses we get of her previous life: she was sick in this bed at a hospital, her family's crying because they've gotten the terrible news about her fate, and the entire time she's just plugging away at this Otome game that she really liked. So yes, now realizing that she is the villainess of this game, and she now realized also that all routes lead to doom, similar to another show. It turns out that this prince is now in love with this Lilia, who is the main character of this game, who eventually gains the power to go off and fight the demon lord that eventually wakes up. The unfortunate thing is that during that whole time, Eileen eventually gets stepped on by the demon lord when he turns into this large dragon. So she believes her best option is to go and try to see if she can somehow hook up with the demon lord to prevent her fate. So she gets up on her feet in front of the prince, realizing that she can't cry, she shouldn't let him look down upon her, and she says, "I've always loved you," bows to him and leaves. This kind of obviously throws the prince off, but still, Eileen goes off to the demon lord, confronts him, and says that she wants to get with him, and he immediately strikes this tree behind him and she passes out. And when she comes to, she's in front of the demon lord and his 2 henchmen. And that's the point where she realized, I want to marry you. Let's get married. And he's like, wait, so you love me? And she goes, no, I don't. It's just going to be mutual beneficial between the two of us. So he fixes her outfit and just kicks her away, sends her teleportation all the way back to her home. But she doesn't want to give up. She needs to avoid this doom path. This is when she comes to realize that the prince isn't only breaking up their engagement, but he's also sort of removing all of her funding, even taking away all of her business. So not only does she have to worry about the fact that the engagement's off, not only does she have to worry about the fact that she might die, but now she also has to worry about trying to recuperate all these funds that she's lost her entire family. So she goes back to the demon lord once again, this time bringing all of her workers. She not only wants to fix the demon lord's castle, improve his image, but also open businesses within there. And over time, the two of them are kind of growing closer. And not only that, but Eileen kind of helps the demons out, because every now and then something will happen and she'll try to go out of her way in order to prevent the wars between both the demons and the humans. Because she does realize at some point that's what Claude wants. He wants the two of them to coexist. So when this Fenrir gets loose, she actually goes there and takes the blame upon herself in order for people not to realize the Fenrir got loose, making her the criminal rather than the demons, preventing the war between the two of them. And Claude sees this and sort of starts to grow closer to Eileen. Eventually, word gets out that Lilia is receiving these threatening letters, and they believe that Eileen is doing it. And so Eileen has to figure out who's sending the letters and clear her name. At the same time, she has to go to this ball that the prince has set up so that she can publicly sign the documents to null their engagement. So Eileen decides to bring both Claude to the ball with her, but at the same time, try to clear her name there. This all kind of leads up to this big climactic moment in the 3rd episode where we both get this clearing of her name. We find out the true identity of the person sending the letters, but additionally, we also get a little more perspective of both Claude and the prince Cedric. They're actually half brothers. And Cedric has a sort of an issue with Claude, that he believes that everybody likes Claude more than him. So he gets extremely jealous of the idea that even though he broke the engagement up with Eileen, he's still jealous that Claude took her away from him. He essentially lost to his brother. So my thoughts on I'm the Villainess, so I'm taming the final boss. Like I said before, the first couple episodes of this series was a lot of build-up. It was decent in the idea that you had this kind of comedy romance between both Eileen and Claude. He doesn't feel that anybody really likes him, but at the same time, Eileen is showing more and more that she really does like this nature about Claude. He's very shy, but at the same time, you can sort of see what he's thinking due to how he affects the weather around the castle. So if there's clear skies, he's kind of happy, but whenever there's rain, it's obvious that he's uneasy. And similar to my next life as a villainess, I sort of like Eileen, the idea that yes, she does have a driving force, that she's avoiding her death, so there's a little bit of selfishness there, but at the same time, she's not a bad person, and so you do kind of root for her as she's trying to fix certain issues, especially when it comes to her accepting all the blame blame of what's happening around this Fenrir, all in order to protect this non-aggressive pact. And yes, it's nice that the fact that Eileen and Claude don't necessarily love each other. Yes, every now and then one will get embarrassed or the other will get embarrassed. They'll have doki doki moments, but it's sort of kind of naturally throwing them in there as they just kind of exist. They both have their needs they're trying to fill, and they're slowly realizing they like certain aspects about each other. But I think the bigger picture of the thing that I like, the thing that kind of hooked me in that third episode, is kind of similar to another show. The world of Otome games is tough for mobs. In that series, what they kind of did with the whole Otome game aspect was that they kind of twisted it a lot. Yes, you have the main character. Yes, you have the main love interest, and the main character goes to love interest, and everybody's happy. But similar to that, I'm the Villainess does the same thing where it sort of twists how the characters act. And it sort of gives you a different perspective of other characters. You sort of feel bad for the Villainess. Similar to Life is Tough for Mobs, in I'm the Villainess, you realize that everything that Eileen has done since she was 8 years old has been to the benefit of the prince. The moment the prince proposed to her, she fell in love with the idea of finally being wanted by somebody. She was the youngest daughter in a family of men, so nothing was expected of her. And the moment that she was given the opportunity to be the empress, she dedicated her entire life to it. And again, similar to my the world of Otome game is tough for mobs, where you have this villainous character that seems nasty at face value and on the cover art, but they've dedicated their whole life. So thus, yes, they're angry. There's a reason why they are so nasty to the main character, is because you're taking away the thing that I've lived my entire life dedicated to. Now, while Eileen doesn't seem to have that perspective come up very often, you do get that sense that that was her whole life. And thus her turning on Cedric is almost flipping on him. And the idea that he's finally realizing how great Eileen was. And he's getting extremely jealous for that. Similarly, they do the same thing here as they do with the world of Otome games is tough for mob, and the idea that the main prince, or the main love interest, kind of a jerk. He's kind of a jerk. You see that because the game is playing out differently than when she was playing it, everybody's acting really weird. And yes, while most of the time she's able to kind of predict what will happen based on certain events, she understands the aspect of the peace treaty. She understands, if things go bad for Claude, he'll turn into this dragon and this big war happens and she dies. But things are kind of acting differently because she's doing something different. In the video game, the Eileen doesn't run off with the Demon Lord. So seeing how the game itself, even though predetermined, is sort of warping, and the perspective that you get from the cover art is completely different in this world itself. And while yes, a different character in Tough for Mobs, this one sort of plays on the same idea that the main character that is present in the middle of this whole fight, it's kind of manipulative, and they're also kind of breaking how things flow. You get this perspective that yes, in doing all these things that do get you the route to get you to the final point of the game, the main character sort of screws up everybody else's life. Because yes, a lot of these Otome games, and yes, technically a lot of the harem games or visual novels and stuff, all kind of center around the main character, and everything else is sort of secondary. And again, I like how it's doing all that stuff. That was the kind of the hook that I'm starting to build up into in the third episode. And yeah, it sort of leaves everything at the very end with a kind of hook, as it seems like everything's sort of being resolved. She's cleared her name. Again, she's sort of making the prince kind of angry and jealous because now his brothers whisked off his lover that he rejected. Or it's more the idea that he's sort of realizing that how important Eileen is. But additionally, they're throwing in these hooks with like Claude. It seems like he still believes that he's going to be betrayed, probably from the only person he's ever really trusted, which was his brother. But additionally, you have the fact that Lilia, who is the main protagonist of the game, she sort of has the ability to break Claude. They're saying that she has this phrase that she can say that will completely win him over and steal him away. I almost thought that she did that already, and maybe it's the fact that Eileen was there, she was able to break that, but still it's sort of giving that little extra hook that we can probably see going forward. But yeah, other than that, I'm enjoying it. The visuals aren't insane. These are pretty standard stuff for a rom-com type of show, which just is doing enough to keep everything going. And the comedy is kind of hit and miss for the most part. There's a lot of points that I really enjoy. I love Eileen and her nature. It's not like My Next Life is a Villainess where she's just kind of a really good person and you kind of just root for her because she's so kind. Eileen's more kind of thrown in the situation late in the game, unlike with that one. So she's kind of having to fix things now. And yes, while she does have a lot of selfishness in her because she doesn't want to die, she's generally a good person, and I do like her nature. Her seiyu's doing a fantastic job. I really do like the nature of the character. It is Ria Takahashi, so it's kind of hard not to like her, honestly. I did get a kick out of the Isaac. Isaac was cool. He's like the childhood friend character that kind of just helps her out on the side. I love seeing their kind of high five they give. It's a good little cast of characters. I'm enjoying it so far. The chemistry's pretty solid. It's not going to be like the most amazing thing for a lot of people, and it could go downhill from here. I don't have high expectations for the series, but like I said, it has impressed me and it has presented some story beats that I really do enjoy in these type of stuff. Again, it was one of the reasons why I was so gravitated to Tough for Mobs. It did that kind of weird stuff where it twists the nature of an Otome game. Anyhow, if any of that sounds interesting to you, definitely check it out. I hope you guys enjoy this video. As always, if you did, make sure to hit that like button down below. Comment, let me know what's a lot of the series you're going to be checking it out. Additionally, if you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you get all my content. I do news, reviews, first impressions, top list. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you want to support the channel more, we have a Patreon link, a tips link, and a super thanks button down below. I greatly appreciate everybody it does, and y'all take care.